Hello and welcome to episode 435 of the Stacey West podcast, in a relentless Christmas schedule that sees none of us get any time off at all. And believe me, when you work in football and you're writing previews and match reports and recording podcasts and looking at news and picking up comments from managers and players, it really does get a little tiresome. 3 games over Christmas, please. Anyway, one man that does not share that view and would just literally watch 24 hours of Lincoln City 7 days a week is Chris Lamming. How are you, sir?
Hello. Yeah, I like it. I absolutely love it at this time of the year. Not necessarily just as a Lincoln fan. Obviously, it's very useful this time round because we've had a great few weeks. But just generally, I love it when football's on and it's every couple of days. I know from a player health perspective, it's load and it's difficult for people to pay for games and get to all of them. But I just love this time of the year when it's just football and nothing else. Absolutely love it. But I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I've been for my monthly chiropractor appointment today, so I feel like a new man. I had my neck screwed back on again, been beaten up and paid for the privilege. And I've just absolutely scoffed my dinner. So I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'd have done that. I'd given you a bit of a beating for free if you'd asked. I didn't realise it was something that you paid for. Actually, no, I can never lay a finger on you. So you're obviously happy with all the football that inconveniences literally everybody. So Our listeners will be delighted to hear that. Danny Cowley's actually lashed out at it today. And Paul Warne has agreed with him. They've both said you talk about safeguarding players and all that sort of thing. And just don't do it. And do you know what? The FA Cup first round weekend has got later. It used to be, it's got earlier rather. Used to be 19th of November, so it's much earlier. There's just too many games. If we have to cut down an EFL trophy game and have like the top team and then the next best runners up or something like that and cut a round out of that, just anything. I mean, we play Saturday through the second half of the season. There's very few Tuesday night games. Who wants to turn out to watch Peterborough United at midday on a Sunday when you've been at the bank, apart from you, Chris, when you've been at the bank 3 days before, or when you've been to Barnsley and you've been to Stockport, when you could just go, I'll tell you what, we'll play on a late March evening. Do you know what I mean? When it's just a little bit lighter and a little bit warmer. I mean, honestly, we'll talk about the game in a minute, but that was cold on, I mean, I don't even know what day it was. Thursday? What is it today? Wednesday?
Thursday it was, wasn't it? It was yesterday.
Right. It was, I mean, do you know what? It hasn't helped. Like, my calendar is determined by football. So, like, if he says to me, are we going to do something on this weekend? It's whether it's football. I remember things by football. So people go, oh, do you remember when you did the London Marathon? Because I ran a marathon. I've not mentioned it before. But I was like, yeah, we were away at Stockport at the time. Oh, Charlie's Gotcha Day, my dog. Oh, I remember that. It was the day we drew 2-2 with Swindon and Jason Shackle and Bruno Andrade. That's how I remember things. So when Christmas comes along and all the days are messed up and screwed up, and like Boxing Day, I can handle Boxing Day football, but New Year's Day and then a Sunday, like there's no natural game day. Saturday's the natural game day. So forcing that game in on the Sunday, crowbarring the Peterborough game in on the Sunday is too much. Stu, one of our team, has said, don't take away the Christmas football. Sorry, I'm going off on one before we've even started. We'll not do any banter. There's no point. Don't take away Christmas football. I don't want to take away Boxing Day. I don't want to take away a game around New Year. I could even just about live with the one between Christmas and New Year. But this weekend's game, 2 or 3 days after we've played, everybody's skinned, everybody's paid for Christmas, everybody's been out at New Year. It just feels like it's just relentless. And it's dangerous for players. Simple.
I do get the point about the players' health. I do. Of course, I understand that. But I can't disagree with you more. From a purely fans perspective, I absolutely love it, as mentioned. So happy New Year, everyone, you miserable sods. We're on a great run, and you can't even enjoy it. Let yourself enjoy it, Gaz.
We're on a great run. Players are picking up knocks. We're not going to be the 100% against Peterborough because we've got players who've been playing 90 minutes over twice in the last week. From a fan's perspective, I'm actually very surprised that you back it so heavily. Because genuinely, I think that the game we get against Peterborough would be massive. It's a massive game on a Saturday afternoon. It's a big game on a Sunday lunchtime when you've just been at home in a massive game. And I think back to the great double headers. Like people will argue back to me and they'll go, "Oh, remember when we beat Ipswich and Peterborough?" Yeah, Ipswich was between Christmas and New Year, and Peterborough was New Year's Day. This fixture, this one coming up, it's one too much. So
that's fair. We're going to agree to disagree.
Yeah, we can. I think we'll both agree. There's a few people saying that they are with me, by the way. Richard is saying he totally agrees with me. Floss is saying with you as well. Stu says we've got a squad of 20 plus players. So does every other team. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm really not.
Well, Mr. Screwball did make a point in saying that we did what we did in the summer for these sort of situations, didn't we? So
yeah. And
there's a yin to every yang, isn't there?
Other teams have got even greater depth. Huddersfield can afford to leave Joe Taylor out completely. We don't have the luxury of having a £2 million striker that we can leave out completely, but then call upon if we really needed to. And that's the difference. But as we said, this isn't a negative podcast because we've beaten, we haven't even beaten, but it does feel like it a little bit to me because it's kind of David and Goliath and we took a point from them. And I've just gone back over Y-Scout. And to be honest, I said, well, on the balance of the game, a draw was probably a fair result. No, it wasn't. We absolutely pummeled Huddersfield Town. We made them look a little bit silly. They got a stroke of luck, which we'll talk about, to get the 1-1 draw. We're happy with the draw. I think there's every reason to be less happy with this draw than there is the draw at Blackpool a couple of weeks ago. But we will go from the top. Team selection. We had to rotate, didn't we, because of the relentless and Christmas schedule, Chris?
Yes, we did. We also changed shape to counter Huddersfield, going for a back three rather than our regular back four. We've seen it a little bit in game recently, kind of as a mid-game change. We obviously started like this away at Blackpool. For me, this was an offensive lineup though, because it allowed us to go man for man on their back line. It allowed us to have our Freddie Draper playing as a striker, and then Rico and Rob Street coming very, very narrow from either flank, and then Derika and Reach pushing really high against Huddersfield's back five. So it was a man v man kind of full press game. So good. I liked it. I like the selection. It obviously worked. We're going to touch on how the first half went, of course, and various moments. But yeah, I didn't have any issues with it pre-game. I did expect to see Fred come back in from the start. I thought he was great when he came on against Barnsley. Obviously needed a rest because of the relentless fixture schedule you've mentioned, but did well. It was actually his good play that led to Tom Hamer's throw-in, that led to Adam Reach's screamer. So yeah, wasn't surprised to see him come back in. And who was the other change coming back in as well? There was someone else who I was pleased to see. Rico, of course, coming back in as well, which made a lot of sense. So yeah, all good.
So for those that haven't read, I was obviously in the media bit yesterday, and you do get to hear a few things, and I was sat in front of Huddersfield Town media, and pretty much from the off it was mumblings about they knew what they were going to get. They were not sitting off us, but they couldn't contain us. They were giving the likes of Rico too much space. And I've just looked back over the numbers, and it's like 1 minute chance, 3 minutes chances, 6 minute chance, 6 minute chance. Yeah, I think even Bartholomew's, and I was going to try not to swear, but I think his shit pinger was in the first 15 minutes, and that felt like it came in the second half. I mean, the simple fact is, irrespective of whatever the result is, from minute 1 to minute maybe 35, 40, you could even say half time, Lincoln City were outstanding yesterday.
Yeah, we battered them. We absolutely battered them in that first 30 minutes. Terribly unlucky not to score. It's weird because we're going into the game thinking we'll definitely take a draw here. And when you do end up going a goal down against them in a play, you'll take a point all day long, won't you? But in that first half, we fully deserved to be ahead at half time. I suppose the balance to it is we probably should have taken one of those chances, and with a little bit of erratic finishing at times. But like, it's what Mr. Cowley said many years ago. It's about creating the chances, being in the right position to miss, isn't it? And we were pummeling their goal. I don't think Huddersfield was set up for us to play the system that we played. I think that allowed Rico and, particularly Rico, but Street as well at times to get in some nice little pockets. It allowed our wing backs really high. But yeah, like taking the tactics out of it, we just absolutely battered them. And it was brilliant. Relentless. PPDA is something that we talk about quite a bit. So that's passes allowed per defensive action. For us, we've hovered around the sort of 9-10 mark for the majority of this season. It was for the first half an hour, it was 4.87, which is the lowest I've ever seen. Lowest I've seen all season. And that's not just for like a few minutes at the start of the game. That's for half an hour. In that whole of the first half, Huddersfield only had 8 successful passes in our third. They had 120 successful in total, and only 27 of them were forward. They just couldn't play. They couldn't play their game. They only went backwards and sideways, and they hardly got the ball forward at all. We just swarmed on them. We suffocated them, and we created chances with that approach. And it was a joy to behold, other than not scoring a deserved goal after that point.
Yeah, I mean, I will give Huddersfield a little bit of praise in that I thought they defended very well, and they had to. We created the chances, but when the chances were coming in, they were usually swarmed by blue shirts. But actually that then reflects into praise onto us, because they've got all of this talent. They've got players probably earning 3 or 4 times what some of ours are earning. And their XG was 0.02. Their 2 shots not on target. There were speculative efforts. There was literally nothing from them. But they had to work hard, because every manager says it. You know what you're going to get when you come to Sincil Bank. And we spoke about it on the way home. I mentioned it in an article behind me. It was their media guys were saying it's like Tony Pulis's Stoke. And I think that was quite a balls out reference to the long throws, the Rory Delap, Tom Hamer, all of that. But actually, there's a togetherness and a work rate. And I talked pre-Christmas or pre-New Year, whenever it was. The schedule's so relentless, I've lost my track. But they mentioned about the hard work before the artistry, the science of football. And in that first half, I praised 2 players. I praised actually 3 or 4, but it was 2 players who I think, one, in the past I've either been a little bit critical of, or who don't often get praised for their work rate. And I want to single those out now, because we can look at the chances that have missed and gone, oh, he should have put this away, or we've made an error here. But creating those chances against the team that have been expensively assembled, paid a lot of money, much bigger budget. Rob Street and Rico Hackett in the first half in particular was superb. Rob's work rate was second to none. I saw in Rob Street on, I was going to say Saturday afternoon, yesterday, I saw Ben House in there a little bit. Just the relentless running. And there was a couple of times where he's got back, the rare occasions that they broke into our half. Rob Street was back there. He didn't score a goal. I don't think he actually had very many shots at all. But I just thought that he was excellent. But that epitomizes the team, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, totally agree. And I'd like to have a bit of a special mention to Freddie Draper, not just in the first half, but just the role he played yesterday, because I thought he was very close to my man of the match. I know he would be disappointed with his shot within the first kind of 5 minutes of the game when he had 2 or 3, but he's so involved. I think tactically he was really aware yesterday, because he was because we were man for man against their back line. They had an extra man in midfield because we had 2, they had 3. And then we were a +1 at the back, so we had a spare man against their front 2. And Freddie's job was to what's known as shadow mark their deepest midfielder, which was for most of the game Ryan Ledson. So normally if you mark a player, you normally stand kind of goal side, you keep them in front of you, but he's doing the opposite. Freddie is standing in the passing lane between where the ball is, normally from their deep build-up in their centre-back or their keeper, so they can't reach Ledson behind him. His positioning has to be spot on, but it also allows him to then go and press the centre-back if the ball goes to that middle centre-back in Murray Wallace. So he's got a really tactical job to do, and he did it brilliantly. We've just shared in the first half how fewer kind of forward and successful passes that Huddersfield had. And that's because you kind of stops them starting their attacks, and Fred had a big role to play in that. And over the course of the game, Freddie was involved in 24 duels, which is 7 more than anyone else on the pitch. So he's just really involved all the time. The play goes through him. He won half of them, which is decent. But I think what's really important to point out is that he just occupies defenders. So even if he doesn't win that first contact, the amount of times we drop on that second ball, we play for it. We have a structure to play for it, but it's off him. So he offers so much more to our play, particularly yesterday, than putting the ball in there. I feel like he deserves a goal because it kind of justifies all that other hard work. But I just thought he was superb yesterday, absolutely superb. And I always like to look at it kind of from the opposition's perspective. Just imagine playing against that. It's a bloody nightmare, isn't it? Absolute nightmare to play against someone like him. It'll be tiring, it'll be frustrating, it'll be physically challenging as well. So that the front 3, really narrow, really kind of quite fluid. But yeah, all three of them were superb yesterday, and and again, really deserved to go in ahead at half-time off the back of their performance.
There was plenty of moaning behind me about Draper putting himself about physically. And remember, we're still talking about a kid here who's, 21? We're not talking about a 25, 26-year-old who's come through and isn't getting the goals. We're talking still about a really young player. And physically, I think he's grown more and more. He's understanding how to use his body. Refs don't give him an awful lot. He is a little bit of a Matt Reed figure in that he does attract fouls, but it looks like he's giving them. I agree with you. I thought he did well. I mean, in reality, he only had 2 shots in the first half, and one of them he drew what was probably the best save of the game from the Huddersfield keeper, Nichols, I think, on 30-ish minutes.
Great save, that.
It was a great save, yeah. And the other one was early, but yeah, he put himself about. And when you look at Rob Street and you look at Freddie Draper, people want to see goals. They think they see strikers. But I made a point on a Patreon dog walk video earlier this morning that if your strikers aren't scoring goals and you're still second in the league, it doesn't mean that you could be top if your strikers were scoring goals. It means the strikers that you've got are playing the way that they need to. And Joe Priestley actually just popped in and says, was the draw a sign that we're missing Collins? Well, I don't think so, because I think it's a different type of striker. And I'm not saying that this is related at all, but since James Collins has been injured, don't think we've been beaten. And it's not connected. What I'm saying is he's a completely different type of striker. Would he have done the job, as you've just said, occupying Leadsom, dropping into that hole? Would he have done the Rob Street, getting back? I'm not entirely sure. For me, when we are scoring goals, and we are, when was the last time Lincoln City went in as a nil? Rotherham, Leighton Orient. Yeah. We're creating 17 shots yesterday, 4 on target. Yeah, sure, they didn't go in, but would we create those with different strikers? I don't agree. I don't entirely live with it. I think to have a Collins and to be able to bring him on, yeah, absolutely. I understand the depth angle. But yesterday, I think that would have been tactically the lineup we would have gone with. Ben House may have played, but it wouldn't have been too different yesterday. I don't think James Collins would have started yesterday's game had he been fit.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Now, if the question is if Freddie Draper had all of his current attributes and James Collins's calmness in front of goal, would we have been ahead at halftime? Probably. But also, if Freddie Draper did have James Collins's calmness in front of goal, which he's developed over, a 15, almost 20-year football career, then he wouldn't be playing in League One. So, I don't think we would have had the winning the second balls and winning those first contacts that Fred did, the approach that we overload one side to hit him to then play in that opposition half of the pitch. And again, I'd like to I say I don't like to go through numbers. Of course, I like to go through numbers, but 56% of all of our accurate passes in the first half were in their half. So nearly 60%. So the majority of all of our passes that were successful were in Huddersfield's half of the pitch. As mentioned earlier, hardly any of theirs were in our half. So we're playing in the right areas of the pitch, but that comes from strategy. Yes, it's direct, but it's still playing out. It's playing out with the strategy. It's not just a big lump. And yeah, I think I'm with you. I think it's just different. If James Collins started that game and he had one of those 2 chances that Fred did, would you back him to probably score one of them or at least hit the target on both? Yes. But would he have helped the team generate as many clear-cut chances as we did in that first half, playing the style that we did yesterday? No, it would look like a different game because he's a different profile of player. So I've backed Fred ever since we've had him. So I hope this doesn't come across as sycophantic. I think I just see his qualities. And one thing I will say that he needs to work on, which was mentioned earlier, he does probably give too many fouls away. He is a bit unlucky with refs. Maybe he needs to be a bit smarter about it. Like he's won 23 fouls this season, but he's given away 42. So yeah, that obviously is something to be aware of. But like I said, I was really close to giving Fred man of the match yesterday because I thought he was just a nightmare to play against from like a Huddersfield perspective.
What I would say is I watched both his chances in the first half. One of them was the layback and his really tight angle from just in right hand side flank. Didn't hit the target. I'm not sure many people scored that. I mean, the XG's got it as 0.04. The angle is so tight that the keeper only has to put his arms out and he's got both his posts covered. And the second one, he absolutely hit the target and drew a top-class save out of the goalkeeper. So it was the second half. He's done a swivel and turn and put one wide. But at the end of the day, we can analyse those chances. But I still think for a young lad coming through and the way that we play, we're doing something right. I mentioned Rico Hackett. I thought he was outstanding. We're seeing prime Rico at the minute, like absolutely. He's in his prime. He's flying. But let's pick up after half time, and then we'll come back and praise individual players, because we're 20 minutes in and we haven't even got past half time. The second half, Huddersfield came out and there was a fresh vigour to them. And considering how poor they had been in the first half, I expected more in the second. There's this perception that in the second they were creating chances. Do you know what? I've looked through, their number of shots was really low. And actually, two of them came in the, I think, was it 6 or 7 they've had all game? Two of them came in the moment that scored the goal, and the other one came minutes later. So I've looked at their goal. It's Alfie May. He's a decent player at this level. I've got a slight issue with the defending for Castledine. This player in front of him, player behind him, gets a free header. Slight issue with that, but it would be really picky. At the end of the day, it's a little touch of quality, which is what you get when you pay the big wages and are able to outspend rather than outsell the benefits of your club. Does that make sense? When you're able to go, you don't have to take a player to the training ground and go, this is a training ground. You just go, well, this is what we're going to pay you, and they'll sign it. We have to work harder to get the quality in. When they can just pay for the quality, that's what you get.
Yeah, and Alfie May has shown that at this level for years now, really. And it is not a player that I would particularly think would suit us stylistically again. But like you say, that little bit of quality in and around that 18-yard box, it's those moments. And he's a player that's made a career off moments. And he's like, you've got to credit them sometimes. You know, he's done really well. A little bit of a dummy to create himself a yard or two from Bradley. Yeah, gets a shot away. Mickens makes a decent save. He's kind of almost half set for the cross. But he does well to kind of get a hand to it. Yeah, recycled well. Castledine gets in the box. Yeah, maybe we're a little bit slow to get behind the ball but like, I think that's clutching at straws. We mentioned a week or two ago, I'm with you, I can't remember what day it was, but praised our work rate. I think it might be when you and Emily were on the most recent pod of that little clip I sent you. I think it was against against Barnsley, yeah. And within 5 seconds of Barnsley being on the break at 3v2, with them got 8 players back behind the ball, and like that's a real cornerstone of our work ethic and our strategy. So like I'm not gonna criticize it for one goal, because like at the time it was like, bloody hell, it's frustrating, not because it isn't a good goal, and not because it's frustrating because they haven't deserved it, because we deserve to be ahead at that point. But it was then asking us a question that we haven't really been asked too often this season, particularly at home, which is, how do you do when you're a goal down, when you're chasing the game? Because we've only actually taken 1 point, I think, all season when we're going behind first. Now, part of that is the fact that we've gone ahead first so much more often than we have gone behind first. But when we have gone behind, our actual points return isn't brilliant. So it was a big question. And I thought we'd dusted ourselves down quite well. Maybe a minute or two after their goal, actually, Wickens makes a really, really, really big save.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that.
And then after that, we had a real calmness about us. Real steadiness of mind, and ground ourselves back into the game, and yeah, got what we deserved in the end.
We were behind for 21 minutes against Wigan at home, and we were behind at Exeter when we lost for a minute. So we've actually only had 22 minutes at home where we've been behind. Bear in mind, this is more than halfway through the season, and it was 8 minutes yesterday. Huddersfield only had 4 shots in the second half. 2 of them were the Alfie May and then Castledine for the goal. And then the other one was Castledine blocked, Tendai dispossessed, then over to Alfie May for the next chance. So actually they only had 2 chances, which counted for 4. But those chances could have been, probably that's where people will talk about quality. I wanted to pick up on George Wickens, because that's a huge, huge save. Because that goes in 2-0 down. Game's done. Game's done and dusted. And you can talk all we want about strikers and goals, and whether they are there to score them, or whether they're there to help set them up, and whether goalkeepers are there to stop goals. That's it. Fact. If your goalkeeper can concede 6, you don't go, yeah, but he marshals the defence, so there's something else he can do. They're there to stop goals. And George Wickens, I think, over Christmas has been excellent for us when called upon. And it's interesting, I did a prepared stats for an article before Christmas on goalkeepers, comparing George Wickens to Rushworth and Palmer, statistically where he is, comparing him to last season. and I haven't written it, and I'm going to redo the stats, and I absolutely believe that his saves and his kind of expected goals conceded will have improved over the Christmas period.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. It's a massive, massive save, that moment. Massive save. Like you say, doesn't matter how well we played in the first half. If that's 2-0 at that point, it's game over, or almost certainly game over. And he spread himself so well to get an arm to that. It was a good shot, good attack. We were under the cosh for 5 minutes or so, but for that moment or two before their goal, plus 5 minutes or so after it, we were under the cosh a little bit. He kept us in the game in a huge moment where he needed to. But then, I was really impressed with our character to grind ourselves way back. And it wasn't like there's different ways of showing character, because against Wickham, it was right, we're up against it here, let's just throw absolutely everything at it. And it was just passion and intensity and work rate. And this was just calmness, I thought. I think it was steadiness of mind and, right, we're okay. We know we're all right. Let's just do what we're doing. And it was interesting that Huddersfield didn't make a change until like 80 minutes. So there wasn't a lot of tactical changes going on in terms of actual like formations, roles maybe, but formations, not much. So it was just what you've been doing has been working. Keep doing it. It'll come. And it did come from a source that we've become all too familiar with.
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually that both teams only made three substitutions each. So there was only 6 in the game, and 3 of those came in the 90th minute, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, we showed some real character. We got a free kick on the edge of the area, which is what's actually led to the goal, and it's Ivan Varfolomov with the delivery, and then I think with a shot that's blocked and goes over, which leads to the corner. Not the typical set piece. I don't know if it's one that planned, but it's landed at Sonny Bradley's feet. I'm not sure if he's got an assist for it. I'll have to have a look at that, but I think he probably deserves one. And then Adam Reach, obviously the joke is that he can score easy goals. He doesn't just have to whack them in from 25 yards. But all joking aside, that's 13 goals from set pieces now, 2 more than anybody else, which we've climbed that over Christmas. I just think I didn't fear when we went 1-0 down that we wouldn't get back into it. And even at times under Michael Skabala, but certainly under Kennedy, and certainly in Appleton's second season, if you went 1-0 down, you might as well shrugged it off and gone home. You knew we weren't getting back into it. You knew we didn't have the tools to unlock. And these set pieces, we joke about it, but we should brag about it, because when you are a team that are operating, and here we go again on the limited budget, and you don't have 8 strikers to rotate, and you don't have the flair players to always unlock defences, or you can't always rely on Rico Hackett to it. You can't always rely on Jack Moylan. To have that route to goal means if you go 1-0 down and they put men behind the ball, if you get those chances to recycle long throws and corners, you've always got a chance. And that's another massive positive to this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to think it's a string to our bow, though, rather than our defining attribute. And I think sometimes you can get we want to shout it from the rooftops that we're good at it, but we also don't want to be pigeonholed in that's all we are, because we're not just a set piece merchants. And the first half shows that, doesn't it? With the amount of chances we created.
I disagree with that. I want us to be pigeonholed as that, because they're underestimated.
When
Jack Moylan does pick the ball up 25 yards from goal. I want the guys behind me, the Huddersfield guys, to start talking about long throws, because and then they're shocked, aren't they? When Lincoln City that make it hard for you, that put it on you. When they beat players, or when they're putting shot like even shot that was stung the palms of the keeper, they're not expecting that because it hadn't come from a free kick. But sorry, carry on.
No, it's fair. It's a fair point, I suppose. In terms of from our perspective, in terms of our fan base, how do we see us?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and I was gonna mention those 2 Huddersfield media guys that were behind you that likened us to Stoke, because and maybe Tony Pulis would probably feel the same inside compared to the outside looking in. He probably thinks there was a lot more to their style when they were in their pump in the Premier League and they were really aggressive and they had Rory Delap's long throw. But we all remember that kind of that as their defining characteristic. And I think from in-house, we want to shout from the rooftops that we're really, really good at set pieces, and it's a great way of us leveling the playing field. But also in-house, we're so much more than that. And the first half showed that, didn't it? But yeah, you're right. From like an outside perspective, we probably do want them to pigeonhole us and underestimate us, because it means that we're likely to give him a bloody nose or two. Just one little thing I forgot to mention in the first half, a little tactical thing that I noticed that I thought was fun, because I mentioned how Freddie kind of evened up the Huddersfield's +1 in midfield, but we had a back 3 against Huddersfield's front 2, which gives us a defensive +1. It's known as an extra player compared to the forward line. That's very, very popular, very, very common. It's how a lot of teams set up to play. What I noticed though was really interesting is that normally, and I think this is quite unique, particularly at this level. Normally, if you've got your +1 or your extra player, that player is either in the same line as the two players that are marking the attackers, or they're even slightly deeper. What I noticed is our +1 was always in front of the defensive line, which I think was what allowed us to keep that counter press on, to stop them progressing the ball up the pitch and to pounce on those things high up. I imagine that's happened a lot throughout the season. I think that's something that's quite unique to us, but I particularly noticed it yesterday with a lot of the time it was Sonny Bradley doing that. So yeah, I think it's interesting. When we had that +1, how we organised that +1 was very aggressive. And I like it. I thought it was worth sharing. I forgot to mention that in the first half, but I thought it was worth sharing at some point because I'd have been disappointed in myself if I didn't mention it.
Just talking about Pulis' Stoke, by the way, you can draw comparisons because they also had like the warrior centre half in Ryan Shawcross. They also had the talented players who may have evaded the big clubs but were able to shine at Stoke, the likes of Matty Etherington and Liam Lawrence. They had Glenn Whelan, as well as Delap. They had players like Ricardo Fuller. So they had the ability there as well, didn't they? But you forget those. And I like that. I want people to forget it because we see Lincoln. We know. That first half of football yesterday was, at times, you've got to argue it's the best of Skubala's 100 league games.
Yeah, I think it's our best first half of the season, certainly. It's what I imagine Skubala wants us to be eventually. Kind of more often once maybe we can, when we're no longer punching above our weight or perceiving to be, we are just on that level playing field. That's kind of what we could be. But it was wonderful, wasn't it? It was a joy to behold. It almost felt like when we'd score rather than if we'd score. Now, I know we didn't, but it felt like it was coming. And it was probably the most one-sided first half of the season. And despite how dominant we were against both Exeter, I know we lost, but we've mentioned before that was actually our most dominant performance of the season, seconded only by Stevenage. Both those games we dominated and either narrowly won, narrowly lost. But in terms of performance, we're brilliant. I'd say our first half yesterday it probably trumps those two games as well in terms of like quality of chances generated and just domination of the whole pitch. Yeah, we were by far the better team in that.
Quick question. Half. I know you've looked at the stats, so you might know this. How many shots were there after our goal on 69 minutes for the remaining 25 minutes, I would say, with injury time as well?
Oh, I haven't looked at that. Don't know.
2. Huh. One of them was Fred Draper's turn, and another one was kind of a half chance after some good work by Jack Moylan. That, for me, was almost reflective of the Christmas period in getting a little bit leggy, looking to conserve a little bit of energy. We didn't make wholesale subs. But I think it was also a sign of a Huddersfield side going, do you know what? We're happy with a point here. And that's to our credit. Those shots were ours. They didn't have a shot after the Alfie May save, after the Wickens save from May. They had nothing, no shots whatsoever. And at the beginning of the season, everyone was bigging up Huddersfield. Sean Rowan's gone there. It's great. They're going to be up there. We're not. They're a big club. Same with Lass when he went there last year. No disrespect to either of them, but I do want to talk about that in a minute. So I'm keeping an eye on the time. And I just think, like for us, we're talking about this like we're talking about two equal sides going together. But we're closer to mid-table League Two sides in terms of budget than we are Huddersfield. We might even be closer to kind of bottom-end League Two sides in terms of budget than Huddersfield. And I know people won't mention it, and people are just going to end up calling me boring budget Gary because I go on about it all the time. But, we've come out of this Christmas period with 3 points from Barnsley, 3 points from Stockport, 3 points from Cardiff, a point against Huddersfield. All of these teams, like Barnsley, maybe not so much. Money. And we're doing it. I'm just proud. Do you know what? I'm just proud. I'm proud of it. I was proud of that draw yesterday. And the big game on Sunday, when we're coming up against a team on a comparable budget, people, if we don't get anything from that, then that gets thrown back in my face. I get that. I can live with that. But I'm just proud. I just don't think the only other thing I want to talk about from the game, and when I say I'm going to talk about it, I'm just going to say a name to you, and then I'm going to let you go off on it. I'm going to put a number on it as well, because when we do talk about budget, we don't talk about transfer fees. We pay a club record transfer fee. They say you get what you pay for. Even Bartholomew.
Yeah, superb. I gave him man of the match for 2 games in a row now, Barnsley and yesterday. I just thought he was brilliant. He was everywhere. He was absolutely everywhere. He's obviously been given the responsibility for set-piece deliveries, and they're good. He's clearly got a shot on him, which we saw in the first half, which is great. I thought he was safe in possession a lot of the time. I thought he won the ball back really smartly. I also liked that when he looked like he was going to lose possession through a tackle, he just had a real strength in his challenge, and he came out on the right side of those kind of 50-50s as well. Yeah, I thought he was brilliant. We've got a hell of a player. Bearing in mind that's only his second league start, I think, isn't it? Or third, possibly.
Third.
Yeah, second in a row. And he looks like he's been part of that unit for the whole season. Like, it's great that he's been able to bide his time to settle in. But yeah, we're all starting to see in the stands what the recruitment team have clearly known for months now. Yeah, I thought he was absolutely superb yesterday. Probably helps the fact he's playing next to Conor McGrandus, who was superb, but that's kind of expected now. I think Ivan was that unknown quantity. We hadn't seen a lot of him. We still didn't quite know him yet. We certainly know him now. He's brilliant.
Yeah, in terms of duels, he won 70% of his duels yesterday, and he won 80% of his duels against Barnsley. But he's got that little bit of quality, or he appears to have, that when you see it, you just know he's got it. Does that make sense? Like, there's just something about the way that he moves, the way that he pops up, the way that he's shaped to shoot. Because, like I say, the goal came from him having a long range effort that was blocked, but it was the technique. You know, when you see a footballer that can hit a ball true, you know, like if you say to me at the minute, who in the squad can do that? Adam Reach. And you know, they all can at some point. You know, like Ben Housewood, Rico will, Rob Street will. They'll all do it. But 5 times out of 6, they'll probably shank it. And that's no disrespect to them at all, because these are good footballers. But do you know what I mean? It takes something special to have that technique in your locker and have the confidence to do that. I'm really, really excited to see where he goes. And in terms of his calmness on the ball, his calmness in possession, in terms of some of the little things he does, people may boo me, I don't care. But he reminds me of Ethan Arahan, because Ethan Arahan always looked that cut above in midfield as well. Different types of player, by the way, different work rates, different bits and bobs. Even I think will get more goals for us. But just to have that panache, just to have that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's something you can see it, and so it's a completely different player. But there's someone mentioned, I think Joe mentioned this to me yesterday. He kind of said there was someone that we saw play that you thought he just looks better than the level, like just technically. Maybe they need to learn tactically, maybe they need to just have it physically, but just on the ball, it looks like it's kind of effortless. And he mentioned Morgan Rogers, and obviously that's easy to say now after how Morgan Rogers is playing in the Premier League and for England. But he kind of glided across the pitch. Now with Ivan, it's his passing for me. It's the technique of his passing. It's so crisp and accurate, and it looks effortless, but it's so crisp. And there was a ball he played across, I think it was to Rico that Rico done me, but it was just a really, really accurate, firm, on the deck, but just effortless pass. And it was, I think we kind of forget, it was his lovely little slide pass into Rico that won the penalty against Stockport as well. So he's been really involved in all of our big moments over the last 3 games as well. So yeah, really, really good. And just before we finish on Huddersfield, I'd like to bring it back just to talk about the budget, because you mentioned that we're maybe closer to League 2 budgets than we are Huddersfield. Now, that's not to say we haven't got a good League 1 budget. Obviously, we've got, I think we're like 16th, 18th, something along those lines. But the point is, Huddersfield are just so far ahead of us that we are closer to League 2. And I think it is relevant, because there's a reason why in football that budget league table, the wage budget league table, is used as a barometer for performance. There's a reason that it's the metric in football. That's because more often than not, the overall league table represents, like the finishing league table represents near enough the financial league table in terms of wages. So for us to be second in League 1 with an 18th budget it's not just really good, it's a bloody miracle. Like it's kind of almost doing the impossible in a way. And we've not achieved anything yet. And Michael was really keen to mention that in his post-match press conference. Like, yeah, it's a great position to be in. We've done nothing yet, though. We've got another half a season to play, and he's absolutely right. But I think it's not just him. It's the whole coaching setup. It's the whole recruitment team. There's a real. It just feels like everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. There's a real unity across the whole club, which is. Now, I'm with you, mate. I just feel proud to be a Lincoln fan, and you kind of always do, but there are certain moments or certain times where you kind of feel more so. And I felt like yesterday. Yeah, absolutely.
The word I'd like to use is vindicated, but I'm not one to do anything like that. So there we go. So we're nearly 40 minutes in. I've got a quick fun question for you, Chris, just before we go to the break. And do all the other shenanigans that we do. By the way, Shenanigans by the band called the Manky Melters has got right in my head. Shenanigans here. But anyway, so they're a French band. So quick question. In the table of fouls per 90 minutes, so remember it's not cumulative, it's fouls per 90 minutes, there are 3 Lincoln City-owned players in the top 5 for fouls committed. If you can name all 3 of them, I will give you your signed Page Voodoo Radio drumsticks back.
Oh, thank you. Freddie Draper.
Correct.
Conor McGrandles?
Incorrect. I'll still give you them back anyway. I'll let you have one more guess.
Tendai.
Incorrect. Freddie Draper, Ben House.
Oh, of course. Silly me.
And JJ McKiernan will be back after the break. There we go.
Oh, you set me up to fail.
I did set you up to fail. So that we have gone on the break, by the way, now. So in terms of actual fouls, cumulative in total, Freddie is 5th. Interestingly, behind 4 other forwards.
Carl Wootton's top, isn't he?
Carl Wotton, Omar Bougiel, who was at Sutton, I think, or Forest Green when we were in the National League. Salek at Cardiff, and Jaden Wareham at Exeter. And Ben House is 7th in the table. There's Jordan Hugill, Ashley Fletcher, Jake Beasley. I mean, there isn't actually the first kind of midfielder in that is Dan Gore. Defensively,
I don't think we give many free kicks away in dangerous areas.
Casey at Blackpool is the only centre half in the top 20. He's not even in the top 20. 27th. So in the top 30 is the only centre back. So I think that shows that quite often the striker is the one that gets penalised, isn't it? Right, let's have a quick look at everybody who's with us, and then we'll get on because we've all got FIFA to play. So hello to Richard. Yeah, before the names before the game yesterday, I actually saw that as well. That there is another Chris Lamming who passed away this year, sadly, spelt with a double M. So, and for those who couldn't see, my dad's name was actually directly below his season ticket thing. So unfortunately it didn't go around. Terry Rams was on there as well. It was nice. It was immaculately observed. People even stood up in the media box as well, which was very nice. Hello to Devon Imp. Hello to Ollie. Hello to, and then he said Fee, Phil. And again, Happy New Year to everybody. I'm not going to say it to everybody. Some of you have been very kind to wish us Happy New Year, but I hope that would go without saying. Chili Steve is in with us. Hello, Steve. Dave. Harry. Flossie is back. We missed Flossie on whatever day it was that we recorded last time. In fact, somebody even in the chat put, "Where's Flossie?" Not usually this late. Mr. Clifton is in. Chris Cawthorne's in. Hope you're doing well, mate. Score predictions for Sunday. We'll do that in a minute. Stu Wells says, "Don't take away the Christmas football. It's tradition." Actually, 4 games over the Christmas period is not tradition. It's usually 3, but I'm going to get back onto that. Next gen base. Other than that, you're all right. Indeed, I am Benjamin. John Bates, a lot of thermals on Sunday. There will, but the game will definitely go ahead. I'm sure you've all seen images of the tent that the EFL have provided. Connor, hello, mate. Hope you're doing well. Jacob is in. Happy New Year to Jacob. He's a long-term follower of the podcast. Carl is with us. Hello to Carl. We'll get near it. Academy Keneally, as we know him. Chris Keneally is in as well. Good to see you. Joe Priestley, we've already popped up, but thanks for joining. I hope you're well, mate. Don't want to miss anybody out, you see. Gary Nicholson. James Collins was struggling for form before injury. I think he was in and out. He'd just got a goal, hadn't he? Barnsley in the trophy. Don't get me wrong. Just to clarify, I'm not criticising James Collins. If he was fit, he would play minutes. But the question is, which minutes would he play, and would we have done any differently? Because when we were clamouring for him to come back in when we didn't score goals, he came back in. I want to say Rotherham, but I might be wrong. And we still didn't score goals. He missed an early chance in one of the games after Ben had missed some and after Freddie had missed some. So Yeah, I mean, obviously we miss James. Of course we do. Colo was part of the squad. And Dominique, a good evening. Phil, I think I've already said good evening to you now, but we'll say it again for prosperity. Prosperity sounds like a part of the body. David Ward. Now, this guy, I just want to say a massive hello to, because what David does for me every week now is he collates all of the local non-league scores with really brief match reports and sends them over to make my life a little bit easier when reporting on the local football, because the readership of those articles is small but will grow. But it's hard for me to dedicate the time to it to grow it when I'm trying to do everything else. And David does that. When I released the magazine, A City United, do you remember that?
I do.
David went round as many newsagents as he could in Lincoln to get them to stock it without even having a copy in his hand. And then he gave me the list of the ones that had said yes for me to go around and visit and drop off. Absolutely wonderful guy. So thank you so much for that. Josh is here. I wonder if Skubala's futsal background is having an effect on our game. One-touch football, brilliant to watch. It's an interesting point.
The tactical side of it as well. That kind of +1 in front is a futsal thing, I think, at the back. So elements, I would say, yeah.
Bubs is still obsessed with Cohen Bramall. He smelt good once, and Bubs still remembers it. Bubs is closing in on his 1,200th game as a photographer. I think if he gets to attend all of the games between now and then, it will fall on the Bradford home game. 1,200 games as a Lincoln City photographer is phenomenal. Phenomenal going. David Larder missed these keep missing these great performances at home. Well, if you're the reason that we don't play well at home,
stay away.
I'm not saying, I'm not. I would never tell a valued Patreon viewer and listener and reader to stay away. But if this guy says it,
just of course.
Pete Summers, bring back games on Christmas Day. I think bring back blocking Pete Summers. Molly Warhead is on, get those extra layers on. Rachel's watching from the other end of the sofa to bed. Well, you've got a big house. You can just go in a different room if he's that bad, I think. Wow, it's taken nearly 7 minutes to get through everybody.
Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Right, when we come back, we'll go straight into Peterborough, or do you want to pick up the Josh Honohan?
Let's first finish with the news. Let's do Posh first.
Okay. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Stacey West podcast. If you are listening at home, you've just missed basically me going through a long list of people who have found time on their Friday evening, so I am informed it is, by the little thing in the top right-hand corner of my screen, to watch me and Chris talk about numbers and wax lyrical about Lincoln City and Michael Skubala while we have the chance. 74 people currently listening live, so thank you very, very much to you. Right, so we look ahead to yet another game of football. Jesus Christ. Reminds me of that sketch from the Mitchell and Webb thing, with David Mitchell going, the football, it's relentless. Next week, Stoke play Portsmouth to see who wins that. This week we play Peterborough to see who wins that. Given that the last 2 games against Peterborough have brought our biggest ever win against them and our biggest win at London Road, they're going to be looking for revenge. They're on a great run under Luke Williams. They always had a decent squad. Budget-wise, they're around us. We can't use that as an umbrella if the poo starts to fall from the sky. It is probably, with all of that in mind and the legginess of the relentless Christmas schedule, it's probably going to be one of the toughest games that we have had. Or am I falling into the QI trap, Mr. Lemming?
No, I don't think you're falling into any trap at all. This is chalk and cheese compared to who we played against earlier in the season. They're actually the form team. Since Luke Williams took over, no team has picked up more points than Peterborough United. 22 points out of the 10 games that he's taken charge. Cardiff have also picked up 22, and we've picked up the next most on 20 over that period of time. So they are clearly hugely improved compared to the team that we played against at London Road. So, yeah, if we're thinking it's going to be another walkover, I think it's going to be very, very different to that. They're still Peterborough. They still have some characteristics that are very Peterborough in terms of possession and style of play, They're much more robust defensively. They've really, really improved their defensive output. They changed shape as well. They're playing a back four again after flirting with a back three under Darren Ferguson. But yeah, they're chalk and cheese compared to where they were. But I want to add some balance to this, Gary. Now, in the last 5 games, they've actually got a slightly better record than us. They've won 4, drawn 1. We've won 3, drawn 2. In those last 5 games, the average points per game of their opponents is 1.11. So they're playing against poor teams. Ours is 1.59. So we're playing against good teams. So yes, they have massively improved their form. You can only beat what's in front of you. But the teams that Peterborough have been playing against have been teams that they would expect to be competitive against. We have obviously taken big points against good sides. So we're certainly capable of getting something out of this. They're also not brilliant where they do go behind first. They haven't won a single game when they conceded first. Our record, of course, is brilliant when we score first. And in the first half, Peterborough's goal difference throughout the whole season is -3 and ours is +9. So if we score first, I think we'll win. There's loads of other numbers I can go through later, but they're significantly better than they were. Significantly better. There's one that's interesting. I'll only go for that one. But yeah, ultimately, I think if we're expecting it to be a walkover and be really easy and be dominant like it was against them at London Road, I think we're gonna be surprised. They're more of the Peterborough that we have become used to playing against, rather than the Peterborough that we played against most recently.
Now, I'm going to kind of I'm going to back up some of that. But first of all, I don't think it was an easy pushover at London Road. I think they were a poorer version of what they've got now. But if you actually look at the numbers and 1 or 2 of the chances, they fluffed a really good chance, I think, at 1-0 to level. It was the boy who's on loan from Chelsea, whose name escapes me at the minute.
You mean Jay Morgan?
Yeah, that's him. Connor Brown is the lad that's at Lincoln United, who was an academy player with us. Interesting what you picked up on there about teams that we played, because I was going to make the point that in the last 6 games, we have played 3 of the top 3 of the top 5 teams in the form table. So the top 5 in the form table are us, Peterborough top in the 6-game form, and then Blackpool, Cardiff, and Huddersfield, which is kind of like it shows we haven't just had a good Christmas. Since December the 13th, we have played tough sides. Stockport are in 11th. Okay, I give you that. Barnsley at 22nd, but partly because I think we've beaten them. Whereas when you look at who Peterborough played, like you said, Rotherham, Reading, Orient, Port Vale. I mean, Rotherham are bottom, Reading are 9th, Port Vale are 20th. Like you say, the form table. I always argue against it. I'll use it when it suits me. When people have come to us and gone, "Oh, we're 10th in the form table," I'll go. So in one little bit of the season, we've played teams that are tougher, or we've had this bad run. The only form table that matters is the 46-game form table. But it is nice to use it as a bit of a thing to say, well, actually, we're 2nd in the form table, and we've played 3rd, 4th, and 5th during that run, and we've got 1st in the form table coming up next. I think that actually does tell you a story. I think there is context to that. So yeah, Posh. I mean, they must have been doing well, because I even backed Harry Leonard a couple of times in the fantasy league. Luckily, when I did that, he stopped scoring, so he hasn't now scored for 3 games. They don't score a lot either, do they? Those wins that we've talked about, I think every one of them, bar the game against Rotherham, was by a single goal as well. So, yeah, like you say, it'd be interesting. What else have you got, Chris? You've got some numbers for us. Come on, do some number wang.
Well, or 2 things, then I suppose. I said one only, but on what you just mentioned, yeah, almost all their wins have been by 1 goal, other than their most recent one against Rotherham, which was 2-0. But in some of those games, they've absolutely battered their opponents. So against Northampton, they won 2-1, but at an XG of 4.41. Reading drew 1-1, XG of 3.08. So let's not beat around the bush. They're much better than they were, because they were conceding loads of chances and they couldn't create anything. Historic at the start of the season under Darren Ferguson, they're better at both ends of the pitch. They were always all right between the boxes, but they were crap in both boxes, and now they're better than they were in both boxes. So yeah, the big one here is that they're still Peterborough, though, so they still possess the ball. So they still have a lot of the ball. They don't contest that much in the air. Lots and lots of passes. in terms of like just number of completed passes per 90, but the fewest number of long passes per 90 out of any team in League One. So in terms of percentage of passes that are long, it's really, really few of them. The big number that jumped out here is something called deep completions, which is a pass that's not a shot.
Completion.
Yeah, don't we all? It's a pass that's not a shot that's within 20 meters of the opposition goal. So it's basically a really dangerous pass in a really dangerous area. So bearing in mind that they have had almost more passes than anyone else in League One, they're 8th for deep completions, which is obviously pretty good. That's not low at all. We have had the 4th fewest number of total passes per game out of any team in League One, and we're 6th for deep completions. So it's just about bang for your buck, isn't it? It just really kind of backs up what we were saying earlier, I suppose, about not just Freddie Draper specifically, but that style about hitting the big diag a lot of the time and playing in the right part of the pitch and being really, I think efficient is probably the best word. When we get the ball, we always try and do something positive with it. There's always a reason for that pass or that move to try and generate an attempt at the end of it. And the numbers back that up is that we are probably the most efficient team in League One in terms of how many really dangerous positions do we get into per pass or per number of passes. So it's good. And look, again, they're still posh because they are 5th in terms of how much of the action is in their third of the pitch. So it's in towards their goal quite a lot of the time. They have the lowest percentage in League One of the ball actually being in towards the opponent's third. So yeah, they've certainly improved in both boxes, but they're still playing out. They're still not getting it into that final third that often. When they do, they have a really high pass completion rate in there. But we're exactly the opposite of that, by the way. It's not in our box very often. It is in the opposition's box quite a lot. And at set pieces, I think this is a big one for us. We know our set pieces are strong. Posh's aren't. -4 goal difference on set pieces this season for them, albeit not conceded many recently. So I think if we're good and we're on form, our strength, similar to Barnsley, there's a lot of similarities here to Barnsley. Our strengths probably line up quite nicely with Peterborough's weaknesses, but they're, I would say, better going forward than Barnsley are in terms of those more kind of clear-cut opportunities. Still similarities between those two teams, probably a similar sort of game. But yeah, I think we'll be okay. But it's going to be tough compared to how it was perceived, at least, in that last game against them.
For those that are wondering, we're +6 on set pieces this season, scored 13 and conceded 7. And that may pay for a Christmas night out, because if Ethan Honohan is to be believed, and some might say he isn't, but if he is to be believed, he did an interview with the Daily Record saying that for every goal from a set piece, I think the board had played, for every goal we were in credit from a set piece. So if we scored 10 and let in 5, we were in credit 5. The board gave the team £500 for the Christmas night out in Manchester. So that's what Ethan Honohan said. And he said the board had to cop up last season, and it was all on Scott Fry, who is already earning lots of praise for his time in Scotland. Right, the timer says 58 minutes. We know really that that's only 51 minutes if you're listening at home. So that gets us to the next piece of news, and that is Josh Honohan has been officially unveiled. Hilariously, the club did a "Who's this?" and they had him walking around with an Irish flag on, because the even Bartholomew pictures were kind of leaked, but not intentionally, when he was going around the pitch. So the media team at the club do try, without being, they get this right balance between not being cheesy, not doing, who was it that was unveiled at Mansfield? They flew out to the chairman's wife's holiday home. Was it Nicky Josie a few years ago? It was awful video, terrible. Yeah, we try, we get it right. It must be hard. I always say, announcing a player, like how do you make it different every time? So we knew about Josh. The real big news, I think, and I will read the release, is that we are not going to see him for a few weeks. He has arrived with an injury. That injury had ruled him out of a couple of Ireland games. He played in the FAI Cup final, but I think that he'd been carrying an injury. Some interesting quotes, I feel, from Jez George, which I wanted to read out. So for those of you that haven't seen it, he said, "I would just ask for some patience with Josh in that he picked up a load-related injury towards the back end of Shamrock's season. After the deal had already been completed, and Josh subsequently hasn't played since the 9th of November. So Josh had signed, by the way, when we did our Liam and Jez special. According to that, the timeline is interesting. So we've been in full dialogue with Shamrock's medical department to ensure a smooth handover of his rehab, and we will take our time to ensure he comes back symptom and pain-free, followed by a gradual introduction to pitch-based training before he's considered for selection. We will not put a time frame on his return to playing, but we're extremely positive that Josh will be able to make a significant contribution to the team this season. We signed Josh on a long-term contract for a reason, so we won't rush this process for a matter of a few weeks. For me, that suggests we probably won't see him February, maybe back end of February, something like that. But significant contribution also suggests we're going to want him for that crucial run-in, which could well culminate in Wembley.
Maybe. I have provisionally booked a hotel for the cup final evening in Wembley. Free cancellation on booking.com. I thought I'd get in there early while it was before the cost.
Is it a double?
Silly. Yeah.
A twin or a double?
A twin.
Would Steph go with you?
Probably. Yeah.
No.
Sorry, mate. Book your own. You guys mocked me when I put that in the group chat, and then now you're all wanting to get on it.
Time to think about it though. And,
well, hopefully we don't need it. But,
yes.
It's interesting, isn't it? But yeah, in terms of Josh, disappointing. I think we was all looking forward to seeing him in a Lincoln shirt. I think when he was first originally announced, they mentioned that he would be available for selection for this game against Peterborough. So obviously disappointing that we're not going to see him for a little while. But also Adam Reach, who we all expected Adam Reach to have a bit of a battle once Josh arrived for that position. You and I and others on the podcast have mentioned that he can play both sides, etc., etc. But you don't miss what you haven't got. And even though he's in the building now, I don't know why I keep saying that. I said that when I was with Ben ages ago. It's very fashionable to say it's in the building, but they're outside most of the time. It's not really in a building, is it? And now I keep
a couple of buildings. It's a couple of buildings as well.
I suppose so. But he's in the squad and with everyone. But we haven't seen him. He hasn't really been part of it so far this season. So we're not going to miss what we haven't seen yet. And we're doing all right at the moment. So he'll be a valuable addition, I'm sure. But as Jez mentioned, you'd much rather take the time, much rather get it right so he can have that big influence and big impact as and when he's firing on all cylinders.
I don't know which one of us has done it, but I think one of us has inadvertently said beaten Huddersfield and not drawn with Huddersfield.
You put it in. I think you put it in your article.
Did I?
Yeah, I think so. In the first paragraph.
Did I really? Richard, why didn't you tell me? Why am I only finding this now?
I think I read it when I was in the waiting room at the chiropractor, and then I went in. I've just remembered now when I saw that there.
Oh, well, that's frustrating. Which article was that? Was that the
your write-up of just yesterday's one? Plus, I can't remember. Like in terms of what needed, like in the ground, maybe. I'm not sure. Check it. I could be wrong.
I'll have to. I'll not check it now because it's really bad radio. But if anybody knows where I've put that, I mean, because the one that I've put about the one I did this afternoon was some draws feel like wins. So I've definitely only talked about draws then. I think one of us just said didn't beat Huddersfield.
Maybe I said it as well accidentally.
No, Devon saying I put it in my match report as well, which is. Yeah, in fairness, I did feel a little bit rushed. I wasn't being rushed, but obviously you had just left the ground, hadn't you? And I I've put the Imps grabbed a valuable point coming back from a goal down to beat Huddersfield 1-1. So that's dearie me. Coming back to draw with Huddersfield. So the other point I want to make is we don't normally address rumour. We'll address anything that's reported. We sometimes address things that we've heard. So if there's talk about something happening and we feel that it has some sort of grounding, we'll talk about that. But I want to talk about something that popped up on the radio last night and something that it's just ludicrous. Joe Taylor on loan. I can't even believe that we're going to mention this, if I'm honest, but I really want to drill a point home here. Why would Huddersfield even loan us a player when we're in direct competition with them at the top end of League One. That's number one. Number two, when have we ever kind of not needed somebody and gone and broke the bank, which we would have to do? We don't need a number 9. Forward reinforcements, if we get it, that's fine. But I don't think Joe Taylor's the answer. It's this obsession with former players, and sometimes I'm guilty. But honestly, when I heard it I think it was on the radio last night, like, we need to go and get Joe Taylor on loan. Oh,
where does he play in that game yesterday? Like, in what role? Ignore position on the pitch, like role. Think of our front three: Hackett, Street, and Draper in the role that they performed yesterday. Where on earth does he fit in that style? Just doesn't. I'm not saying he wouldn't, like, a player of his profile to add into the squad. Would it be helpful? Maybe. Do we need one? No. Do we need him specifically? Like, for the reason you said, I think it's a non-starter, because why would Huddersfield strengthen a rival? Like, that just makes no sense from their perspective. But hey, you say it's an obsession. It does frustrate me now and then when you hear these things about, but it's about former players. But for most fans, that's what we know. We've seen, what you're going to get, or at least you have an idea of what you're going to get. Whereas lots of other names that are banded about are the kind of a bit of a mystery, aren't they? But yeah, I just don't think it works. And we mentioned as well, didn't we, that I like what you said earlier about, like, Rob Street and Freddie Draper, and that it's not that if we're a different player we'd be doing better. It's that they are part of a team that's doing very, very well. They are cogs in a machine, aren't they? And we've mentioned countless times this season, the strength of this team and this squad is that it's greater than the sum of its parts. And I thought Joe Taylor was a really good player for us. And I hope this doesn't come across as too negative towards him as a person, but did I feel that he would fit in with that mentality of this squad? I don't know. I don't know if it aligns. If it aligns quite as much as maybe the characters that we currently have. I don't know the guy, but it's just perception, isn't it? So yeah, this is one I cannot see even beginning to start.
So he wasn't a Jamie Tart. Ben will,
No.
Ben will love that now, won't he? He'll go, "Oh, Gary's watching Ted Lasso." So he wasn't a Jamie Tart, and I won't cast aspersions on him. And look, if somebody said to me over the summer, "Would you take Joe Taylor back as part of your squad?" Absolutely, because he offers something. If we want to go in a certain formation or we want to play a certain way, absolutely. But is he what this team now needs in order to strengthen? Probably not. We probably actually need more of a Fred, a striker that's a little bit more robust, a little bit more physical, who can take over that mantle every so often. I'm not entirely convinced on Justin Obikwe yet. I never really know whether I am convinced on him or not, which pretty much sums up his entire style of play, is that you never know whether he's going to produce something outstanding or not. But we're only talking anything for me that happens between now and the end of January. We're talking about either replacing potential outgoings, or we're talking about not peppering the squad, but it would have to be a rock solid 100% improvement on what we already have. And I think that would be really, really hard. Mm-hmm. Do I think we'll sign somebody between now and the end of January? Yes, I think we'll make a transfer. I think we may do too. But I think if we do, it will be someone going out. If I'm honest, I don't think there'll be any huge major additions to this squad. And people go, "Well, we're losing Dexter Lembakisa and Finn Barbrook's gone." Yeah, but again, I'm not entirely convinced that we're going to replace them, because Jez said it on our show, didn't he? Finn came in because Dom Jeffries was injured, and I can't remember Dexter now. I can't remember who Dexter was.
It's interesting with Dexter, actually, because he was brought in as Tendai cover, so Tendai didn't have to play all the cup games. And then we was bringing Josh Honohan in because he can cover both left and right, but he's obviously not going to be out, not going to be in for a while. So maybe we would be a little bit light at fullback. But obviously Dexter's it was only a 6-month one anyway. He was always going back now. But yeah, in terms of transfer window, of course, if we lose a player, then you fully expect us to replace them. And I think the only players that we will sign in addition to that, and this is a massive if, but if there's an opportunity to sign someone who significantly improves our 11, not about squad depth, not about potential, someone that improves our 11, which is very difficult to do, I think. But if someone of that ilk becomes available, then yeah, great. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it, if we could do that? I imagine we've got a little bit left over from the summer. Didn't spend it all, did we? But we're doing pretty well. So
it's actually a really tough transfer window now, more so than ever, because in nearly every other window that we've gone into, we've recruited for the 6 months that follow in order to pull ourselves away from relegation with John Marquis, etc., in order to looking ahead to needing a striker when we brought in Joe Taylor. Or we've been prepping for the season ahead, the next one, knowing, well, we're not going to go up. So we'll bring in a Ben House. I mean, it was the same transfer window, but, like a Ben House or a Cohen Bramwell, or you've kind of got it in your head where we're going to be.
Regan Paul at the time.
Regan Paul, although both of them came in a year where we thought we were going to be promoted. But then both of the players that we brought in permanently, by the way, in that transfer window, in Cohen Bramwell and Regan Paul, went on to play Championship football. So that recruitment was kind of based really looking ahead to Championship football rather than League One. And that's the problem we're at now is, do we go out and recruit players for the first team who are going to be Championship quality, which we could be Championship next season, which is a ridiculous thing to find myself saying after predicting 11th to 17th. Do we recruit for League One and then you're saddled? It's a really tough one for us to buy long term. And we've never been one to go short term unless it's absolutely needed. And it isn't needed. I kind of, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It makes total sense. I haven't got a lot to add other than yes, you're right. In terms of what would I like, this isn't necessarily what do I expect, because I think if we didn't make another signing, I'd be quite happy. But what would I like would be one more wide player. Because we've got Rico on the scintillating form. Jack Moylan can play out there. Obviously, Rob Street's been doing that a little bit, but I kind of like him as an option down the middle when. If you have an extra wide player and Rob hasn't got to do the wide role, he can then battle it out in that 9 role for Freddie, and then we don't need another striker because you've got a big crew in the wings as well. Obviously we've got Ben House to come back, who's a very different profile, but he's not here yet. And Oscar Thorne was probably the other one. He's out, of course, not really an option at the moment after recovering from his surgery. It's Eric Ring, but Eric hasn't had a huge opportunity to get into the team. There must be a reason for that. So maybe one more kind of real kind of as much as you can get proven. And I know we don't normally like that saying when we talk about strikers, but proven League One quality player that's going to add something to that front line as a wide forward would be nice. But we don't need one. I've just listed a load of players there that can play there without even mentioning Dom Jeffries, who's had a couple of appearances there recently. So we're fine, aren't we? We are fine. If we sign no one, we're fine. But I do feel we'll probably bring 1 or 2 in.
Yeah. Well, I think that pretty much sums it up. I said to you this afternoon, there's too much football at the moment. People are not going to listen to, not going to be able to listen to full 1 hour podcast. We'll keep it a little bit shorter. And here we are, 1 hour and 12 in the live, which makes it about 1 hour and 5 on the audio. Oh, thank you so much to everybody. There's been a little bit of a recruitment drive as well in the chat. Apparently we are on 1,997 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're listening, we may have broken 2,000, which would be absolutely unbelievable. I remember when we broke 1,000 and we were also very, very ecstatic that plays into the fantastic work that everybody does behind the scenes. May I particularly mention Stu and Ben. I mean, we all put the content out, which is great, but I think with Stu and Ben, there's Stu puts an awful lot of clips and things together for us, which helps grow. And his face is never there. Like we all get our faces on here, and that's kind of not a personal thing, but you know what I mean. We're seen, whereas Stu does a lot of unseen stuff and never wants to be seen. So fair play to that, and to Ben, just because he is relentless. He is the even Bartholomew of the podcast, because he does presenting, like yourself, Charlie, Emily, come on as pundits, but presenting is a tiny little bit more involved. He even presents when me and him are on. He gets he's doing the previews. So given that he's doing more podcasts as well, I know Charlie does the previews. I'm not belittling anybody's impact, but yeah, those two work so hard, as do you guys as well. So my happy new year. I've said it to all of the readers and all of the patrons and all of that. I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to all of the Stacey West team who on the podcast who back us up, and to everybody at the Stacey West. That's the Malcolms and Dara, who's recently left us, and other people who contribute as well, because you are all fantastic, and I won't be nice to any of you again. Right.
Thanks, mate. That's fair. That's a year's worth of nice things to say.
I think so.
Get it all in on the 2nd of January. You go and got to mention it again for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's all done and dusted now. Hopefully that'll get me out of paying for any sort of meal that we missed at Christmas. So that's it. Relentless football. There'll be another podcast on Monday or something like that. God, it never stops. But thankfully, I don't have to be on it. One of that wonderful team, Ben and somebody else, will pick it up and they'll talk at you about football, and you'll all listen, and everyone will be a big, happy community. And it's absolutely brilliant. 2026 can't be a worse year than 2025. It could be a promotion year. It'll be a banging year for the Stacey West podcast. We've got a great community, but most of all, we've got a great football team to follow. So happy new year. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.